We are 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Wow, look at this. Everybody got back. Managing to do it with cheap gifts that were in the garage, too. That's, didn't have to use anything good. All right, here we go. Zero 0272. Got anybody? 057. Good. Good for you. Kind of noisy, aren't you? What do you want, John? We got Atlas Shrugged movie, Wisdom from the Robber Baron's book, Uneasy Street, Anxieties of Affluence book, Color Donald Trump, $2 bill. All right? All right. Ah, there you go. I know Glenn intimately. Interesting fellow. All right, guys. I don't think I need to remind you of anything, do I? No. So we are on your page 59. And by the way, if you're restless about not seeing things, tomorrow is example rich. So you'll see a lot of media tomorrow. And Q&A, we're going to try and do at least one little session, maybe two today. The way that will work, for those who don't know, is when I say we're going to do Q&A, there's a little side table up here. There's 3 chairs at it. You haul your butt up to the table and grab a chair, and you get to do Q&A. And there's candy. So on page 59, I want to beat up a point I make fairly often, and it ties right to where we left off, is what not to do. And it actually these days is pretty much true with any target market, but more so with your highest value customers. So I'm going to use the financial advisors again as an example, but generically, it's pretty much true of everybody. But they would be concerned, most of them, with media like this. This is Kiplinger's Retirement Planning Guide. They also publish a couple of monthly magazines for retirees. Okay. Most of the big name financial companies advertise in the magazine. And it is representative of a whole category of retiree media. So even though that's a subculture, not a niche, there is a lot of media, offline and online. And here's what you will find in some of it. So these are all direct quotes from that retirement guide. Annuities introduce higher fees and complicated formulas that many investors don't understand, and some salespeople take advantage of the complexity. Some states have enacted laws to stop the worst of these selling practices. The head of FINRA, the regulatory agency, has issued alerts about annuity sales and has said, be leery of sales agents. So this is what they're being told in their media. And the common denominator of it is being a salesperson. Right? So they are being warned against salespeople. Look out. They are out to get you. Largely, that's kind of where everybody is. Young people don't like them at all. There's a survey done by Stanford a couple of months ago of our millennial friends, and the lone exception of our millennial friends, and it's over 80% would say they would rather buy a product or service by any means other than dealing with a salesperson. It's over 80%. So why would they? Well, because they think a salesperson is an evil person who is going to trick them and take advantage of them and get them to buy things they don't want or need. It's not good. The old customers being warned against them all out to take your money and leave you eating dog food and for the rest of your years. Salespeople generally rank low in trust in survey after survey after survey. The idea of buying a car without going to a dealership and not taking a test drive and having it delivered to your house has the same appeal as does now buying a mattress that way. I don't have to deal with one of these evil salespeople. I can do it in a safe place. So what this tells us is that we dare not be seen as a salesperson at all by anybody, but certainly from the high-value, affluent client who tries to avoid them predominantly by referrals within their own community of peers. So if you let yourself be seen in any way, shape, or form as a salesperson, you put yourself at immediate disadvantage. Now, the good news is we know how people spot a salesman in the woods. They know what to look for. They know how to identify one, just as they would a bear emerging from between the pine trees. So we know what not to look like, right? It's not really a complicated equation not to do it. So number one, they know they're in front of a salesperson if the salesperson has sales awards. That's a dead giveaway. When I ran a 2-year coaching program for financial advisors with Matt Segula at the first meeting, we had them bring all their stuff, right? And every one of them brings their PowerPoint presentation on their laptop or a printed out version of it, in a notebook. And almost all of them, the first thing in their presentation is all their sales awards. Number 1 in this, number 5 at this, all their sales awards. I'm going, really? this is where you want to start, is look out. Not only am I a forget all that financial advisor bullshit, I'm a salesman. Not only that, I'm a really good one. Well, I don't want anything to do with that. All right? Car guy takes you into his cubicle. What's up on the shelf in the wall? His sales awards. Oh no, this guy's really good. I'm overmatched. I got to get out of here. I want to walk in and see the sign on the wall that says, I'm about to be fired. Right? Because I don't know how to sell cars. Perfect, you're my gal, right? We can do business. Second way we know we got a salesperson is they got brochures. Salespeople love brochures. They can't get enough of them. If you have salespeople, what do they ask you for? More brochures. You can create brochures up the butt, and they will want more. Companies have mountains of them, and instead of selling, they're locked in their room with their computer making more brochures in addition to the brochures that company makes for them. So everybody knows. You whip out some brochures, you're a salesperson. That's what you are. A promotional video. The video that is how great we are. And it's got a bunch of big logos in it, and usually a picture of the home office, corporate offices with people running around or answering phones or something that implies sales activity is in progress, right? If you got 20 of them from 20 big dumb companies and looked at them, they're all the same, right? And I instantly know salesperson. PowerPoint. The minute you whip that out. So I don't know now, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I interview, is it 6 or 7? 7 private bankers. I'm going to move up to private banking. Interview them all. They're all the same. Who was that? I heard a machine. Aha. Okay, you know what you must do on the next break. Say donation. You might want to put that thing away. Unless you're a cardiac surgeon or a bail bondsman. It'll wait. Every one of them. And I made them all meet in a bad place, just for the hell of it. So it don't matter. Table and Bob Evans, every one of them. Up comes the laptop, and up comes the PowerPoint presentation. First of all, I don't want a PowerPoint presentation. But secondly, what have you just done? I'm a salesman, and I have a sales pitch. Great. When I went to bed last night, my prayer to God was that I could spend my day watching sales presentations on a laptop done by some nitwit at the corporate home office that you now know the words to. Just perfect, right? Charts and graphs. Salespeople. And a lot of them have these kind of charts and graphs. Your logo goes here. If you happen to have any of those that your company has given you, burn them. Everybody's got them. That's why it says your logo goes here. One of the 7 hadn't taken off the your logo goes here on one of his. And look, you can't fault the companies for this. They know they have idiots, that they are trying as best they can to prop up. You can't fault the company. You just can't let yourself or your people do this because you instantly are in your own way. Canned presentation. If it sounds canned, it is canned, which means it isn't for me. It's for everybody. And in case nobody's noticed, I'm special. So I don't want what is for everybody. I'd actually like some questions. First of all, what would be real good is prep. That would be real good. Like I understand today, like you can Facebook people, and you can see like whether they got kids or a dog or they won a baseball trophy, whatever, before you meet with them. That would be like smart, particularly if there's somebody who might be famous. That would be like smart. But at least some questions, right? Early, not late. But the minute you are doing products on a push cart, you're doing, here's a presentation. Click, bing, bang, right? So if you go do the Disney timeshare presentation, they got all that shit. They got the greatest AV I've ever seen in my life. And the good guy don't go to it until he's asked about 15, 20 questions. And then he's skipping this and popping to that and showing you this and not showing you that. Right? They could have canned the whole thing by now, and they haven't, because it doesn't work as well if you use salesperson language. So if you look like a salesperson, you're a salesperson. If you talk like a salesperson, you're a salesperson. I've witnessed them, transcriptions of their presentations, using words like, can we close on this today? To a customer. Seriously. So any salesman language, deal. See, deal is salesman language. Even buy is salesman language. You know, a very basic alternative close. You know, do you want it in red or would you rather have it in blue? The customer goes, oh shit. Sales guy. I don't like salespeople. If you're easily accessible, now we get to stuff that's tough for a lot of people. The more easily accessible and eager you are, the more likely it is you're a sales guy. Because your eagerness is really fear and desperation. And everybody damn well knows it. But the affluent people know it the most because they're not easily accessible themselves. So when they ring a bell and you leap up out of your seat and come running, and then you want authority with them, good luck. They know exactly what you are. They probably won't be afraid of you. They just won't respect you. You don't get to prescribe now. You're selling. And if you're low in status, which that telegraphs, you're a salesperson. Because there's pretty much nobody lower in the structure than the sales guys. And kind of everybody knows it. When you're going to go do something important, do you want to deal with the salesperson? Not if you can help it. Most of you try and climb up the food chain a little bit, right? The affluent person wants to know, who do you know in this category of goods or services, and I can get to the owner. I can get to the top dog, right? That's what affluent people do. They try and bypass the little people who don't have any authority. You are probably not. So almost every industry now has a do-it-yourself option. The industry I thought would not be Amazon for quite some time was orthodontics, and they're already being Amazon. You could actually play at being your own dentist at home and install Invisalign in your kid. So this is like going to the auto parts store and getting a muffler and putting it on the car yourself in the driveway. Maybe a muffler. I wouldn't suggest doing it with like brakes, but it's a car, right? This is your kid's mouth. You are rearranging the teeth in it like forever. And you're going to do this on screen with your device and Invisalign shipped to you in a box. Chances are most of you in the room would not. But there's a lot of people who will. Lots of them. So the middle down of Invisalign is now commoditized. It's now price suppressed. Those patients really are of no value to any of us if we are orthodontists. They've all been ruined and taken away. Because we want to sell at $8,000, and they're selling it. What's the Basic Smile Direct? Do you know? Is it $995? It's like $900, right? Well, you 900, 8,000, big-sized canyon here to get across. How do you sell at $8,000? You sell it to somebody who wouldn't buy it at $995. That's how you sell at $8,000. In colleges, you know, where I did a bunch of work for High Point last year, every in-state tuition is a lot less than an out-state tuition, right? There's no hope at High Point selling to parents who are weighing that option because of the money. They ain't going to get them. They got to be selling to people who aren't weighing that option, who are making a profound choice for another reason. So this sales thing fits the basic core principle, which is if everybody's doing it, don't. So whatever the salesperson in your industry is doing, don't do that. Don't look like that. Don't speak like that. Don't sound like that. And the higher up the food chain you want to go, the more this is true. There's a second reason why it's important that is in addition to not liking salespeople. And that is, it isn't just that people don't trust salespeople. They don't trust themselves with salespeople. They all know they can be hoodwinked. The Walton-heirs just put $150 million into Theranos. What do they know about themselves? They know they can be sold something that they shouldn't have bought. That's what they know about themselves. And they're worth, family's probably worth $1 billion. But they know, if they didn't know before, they know now. We think we're really smart, but we can be hustled out of $100 million by a really good salesperson. So we can't trust ourselves anymore with salespeople. So now they'll get hustled by somebody who figures this out and makes themselves not look like a salesperson. But they don't trust themselves with salespeople. Nobody does. And you got to match yourself. So I tell this all the time. So Carla wound up with a lot of money by divorce. When we remarried, mysteriously, it actually didn't return. I mean, You know, I joked that I married rich, which I did. I never said I got any of it. So it stayed her money, which is fine. So she needed somebody to put some of this money with. I could not put her with Matt Zagula, if any of you know Matt. Now, fine job, competent. I use him. I wouldn't hesitate to have her use him, but she would balk in a hot second. He's too slick for her. Now, Matt does really well, for example, with old guys who see in him the son they wish their son was. Okay, that's a really good client for Matt. My scared and timid wife, who knows salespeople aren't to be trusted, including me, okay, Matt's a little too slick and a little too young, a little too this and that. She ain't going to do business with him. Now, my New York Life guy is perfect for Carla. He's old, paternal, Jewish guy. First thing he wants to do is show you all the pictures of his grandkids, right? Matt's got a picture of his car, you know, I mean. So they'll sit there and talk grandkids for like an hour. I would like just stick sharp, you know, just tell me the rate and how I get out of this thing and where do I sign. I got shit to do. No. He is like slow and never salesy. He's not salesy. New York Life's got a shitload of brochures. You didn't even see him till after you've done business with him. He works with a legal pad and some pens and appears to be doing it from scratch for you. Now, we all know he's doing the same shit for everybody. It's the same stuff that's in the PowerPoint presentation he ain't using. Roizen at Cleveland Clinic told me that. He's doing this shit on the legal pad for me and how your pancreas works and why you got to take 10,000 steps a day or you're going to die. It's crap, you know, this stuff. And I'm going, don't you get tired of doing that? He said, look. He said, I got it right over here on the computer in a PowerPoint presentation, but if I do that, you instantly discredit me and my authority and what I'm doing, and it's like I'm a sales guy for Cleveland Clinic. So I don't use any of that shit. I use a legal pad. Well, I know he's showing the same stuff to everybody. Any diabetic, he's given the same talk to, right? 10,000 steps, don't eat lunch meat. He's doing the same crap. I can do it. I've heard it often enough. But it's more effective doing it that way than it is click, 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 parrot, 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 parrot. So you got to match yourself with an audience. Zagula could take a whack at Carla 20 times and not walk out of there with any money. Sid, oh, she just loves Sid. Sid can send her the shit with the little arrows and the 3 places you sign. She don't read nothing. And off the money goes to Sid, right? Now, she should know better about that, but haven't you done it within the past year? We all do it, right? And affluent people do it a lot. That's why the go-to guy, so Darren Garman who's here, you know, I invest in Iowa real estate. I don't even know if the stuff's there, right? I mean, when's the last time I was in Cedar Rapids? Are you in the room? 7, 8 years ago. A lot of money in the meantime is going to Cedar Rapids. He could be selling the same building to 20 people. Fuck, I don't know, right? I have no idea. The shit comes, it's got little yellow arrows on it. Sign here, write the check. We all do it, right? And we want them to do it. But you got to have matched yourself with people. So, you got to ask yourself, not what do you want your customer to know? How do you want your customer to feel? How do you want your client to feel? How do you want your prospect to feel? Because even though this should not be the case, feelings are more important by far than facts or information. And in many cases, even more important than comparative value. Carla's a smart person. She didn't shop those annuities at all. You can go online, you can shop the shed. Type in annuity. I think there's 12 million sites that come up. There's the equivalent of Travelocity. You know, we search 50 and we tell you the one, and not an ounce. Why? Because she felt really good about Uncle Sid. That's why. You got to go check, and it's New York Life too, but I mean, so you got to go check rates? No, not check rates. Right? You want to read the fine print? No, I don't want to read the fine print. Why not? Well, because it's Sid. So I met him a week ago. Yeah, but it's Sid. And his grandkid does this, and like our grandkid. And okay, great. So feelings matter more than facts. And in extending customer, client, patient, donor relationships, which typically increases customer value by longevity, feelings matter a lot more than information or facts or even value. Because anything can be commoditized in reality. So you got to ask yourself how you want people to feel. Do you want them to feel like they are being pursued and hunted, or that they are discovering you by their own initiative? Which seems to be more to your advantage? The second. So everything we can do to make them discover is better than anything we can do showing up, prospecting, and selling. And it's not about the reality of it. It's about how they feel about it. So why, for example, go to all the trouble, losing a fucking fortune doing it, to drive people to Amazon to buy a book? I could give away the books and spend less money than I spend selling them. And I've been doing that for 33 years. It's a lot of dough. Why? Because when he goes to the bookstore and finds it, or buys it from Amazon, or is given it by a peer, it feels different than if I run an ad and get him to request it for free. Not that that doesn't work, and not that it can't. That's not my point. And it feels different than if I send it to him. That's the least best option. I've identified that you're a short, annoying little Indian, and our product is perfect for short, annoying little Indians. And a bunch of my great clients are short, annoying little Indians. So I've taken the liberty of sending you a free copy of my book. That's like the lowest effectiveness thing you could do. Because how does he instantly feel about that? Hunted and pursued. We went out into the wild, musket in hand, night vision goggles, and we looked for annoying little Indians, right? So we could shoot them with the tranquilizing thing and drag them back to our showroom and sell them something. That's how that feels, and it's not a good feeling. It doesn't move the process forward. Do you want them to feel threatened, anxious, or safe? Safe. People want to feel safe, all right? My client that in the financial services business that sells to people who have just sold their business, he does better and better and better and better when we do two things. One, when we talk about him instead of what he does. And two, when he dispenses advice again and again and again that what you should really do for 12 months after you sell your company and you have this big bucket of $20 million is do nothing. Don't do anything with me and don't do anything with anybody else either. Do nothing. Don't divorce her. Don't marry somebody. Don't buy a boat. Don't buy another company. Don't go on to Goldman Sachs. Do nothing. Lock the money up. Don't even give it to me. What does that do? I feel safe with him and unsafe with everybody else. Do we want them to feel next up, being sold to? Like UPS is the worst selling system I've ever seen. Car dealerships, furniture stores, they're all waiting, and you come in, and the next person has you. They're up, if you don't know the sales language, and they follow you around because they don't get the next one. They got you, whether you cooperate or not. So they're like nose up your butt, They disappear for a few seconds, and furniture stores are built for this. If you haven't noticed, the next time you're in a furniture gallery, they're actually schemed for this physically, so that as you walk over here, the rep you brushed off can go over here and reappear behind that shelf. Boom, there they are again. Right? The store is actually designed for that purpose. The next time you go, pay attention and keep brushing them off. And you'll see. You'll be on this path, and they'll pop up over here again right in front of you. And then you'll brush them off, and you'll go this way. They ran around this way like they were in a David Copperfield trick, and they'll pop back out over here. And the whole store is designed that way. Like a casino is designed to keep you in the maze. This is designed. But do you want to feel like you're the fresh meat for the one that's got the next up? No. So we should design a different way for people to feel, right? Do you want to feel like you're being dragged across the finish line and closed? Or do you want to feel like you're making a decision when you buy? You like to feel like you're making a decision, right? So the stupid shit like contract and the pen shoved across the table, gee whiz. How does that make sense? Even if you get it done, how do they feel? So unless you're a one-hit sale person, it literally is make the sale, get the check to clear, and get out of town, right? Unless you're that kind of experience for the customer is not a good experience. Number one car guy in Phoenix who was car salesman I dealt with when I lived at Phoenix. He was really good at all this non-salesperson stuff. And he had a really high referral rate. People brought him a lot of customers to buy cars. And one of his things that he did that drove the owner of the dealership crazy is you would bring him something. I saw it the first time and thought it was an aberration, but I then realized he did it almost every time. It was, let me start with this, Richard. I'm not going to let you buy a car today. I'm going to show you cars. I'll answer all your questions. We'll do the math if you want to do the math, but I am not going to let you buy a car today. At bare minimum, you and your wife got to go home, you got to sleep on it, you got to think about it, you got to think if you have any questions that didn't occur to you while you were here, but I will not let you buy a car. Now, in the car business, that takes some big ones, right? Well, because it's antithetical to everything we know about how to sell cars. It's antithetical to the religion of the auto industry, which is there ain't no be-backs. You get them now, or you ain't getting them. They're gone, right? His close rate was ungodly, right? right? Why? Because everybody felt like they weren't being sold. Now, in reality, he was selling. He was just selling in a smarter way than most people sell. So we got to think about how we want them to feel, not just what we want them to do, not just what we want them to know. So somebody comes to me for a day, paid, they come for a consulting day, unless they're repeats. The object is essentially to have that day lead to project work. And so there's information that matters. There's figuring things out and being able to prescribe that matters. But what matters as much or more is how they feel about how the day is gone, the environment they're in, and how hard I worked to make the sale, which on a 1 to 10 is somewhere about a -3. They really have to ask, well, what can you do of all this? What can you do for me? And I'm usually pretty about that. If you go see the Disney timeshare presentation, it's the same way. It's like, by traditional standards, it's the worst timeshare close you've ever seen in your life because they don't close. Our guy was like comatose. He's like Gumby, you know. And I'm trying to get him to close because I want, the guy ain't even trying, right? I mean, it's almost insulting. It's like, you know, don't you know about an urgency close, free bonuses? What the hell's wrong with you, right? And he's like, oh, you got to make your lunch reservation. We got to get you out of here. I'm going, what the fuck, right? You're supposed to be on the phone changing a lunch reservation. What the hell? We got to get you out of here. Tell you what, we talked about these 3 different things. I'll draw up the papers on all 3 of them, and I'll send them to you. It's a timeshare presentation. Send the contracts? Huh? I'll send them to you. Got any questions, you can call me. If you decide to do one of them, you can fill them out. I'll put a FedEx envelope in there. You can send them back. By the way, I'm going to send them FedEx, but don't expect them next day because it takes we're backlogged here. So, you know, I'll get them out 2 days from now, 3 days from now. When you get home, they'll get there. This is the timeshare sales guy. I'm like, I've never seen anything, you know. I mean, timeshare is tough, you know. And when you're selling to people on vacation, it ain't like they can come back 3 days from now. They're going home. You got to get their money. This guy's like, ugh. Carla literally says, she literally says, gee, we can not only trust this because it's Disney, we can trust this because he didn't make any attempt to close the sale. I'm thinking, yeah, no reason to question this. 100 grand, $8,000 a year for the rest of your life, and it forces you to come here where you will spend a bloody ass fortune every day before you get, there's no reason to question this, because he didn't make any attempt to close the sale. Well, think about that, right? It's almost anti-selling. So the highest value customer is always buying by preference for provider, not by product or service. Low value customers buy things. That's what they do. And therefore, they often buy by price, or they often buy by convenience, immediate availability, right? So most people hear a funny noise in their car driving to or from work. They, depending on their income level, they turn up the radio. That used to be my solution. Car's making a funny noise. Not if we crank that sound up a little bit. Still do it, by the way. It's how, on my way to the flight to Slovenia, I wound up with a whole tire blowing up on the freeway because I'd heard it for 2 days, but I just turned up the radio. Yeah, old habits die hard. So that's what real poor people do. But what most people do is they buy what's easily available or cheap to solve the need or the desire, right? They pretty much they go to the movie that's at the movie theater closest to their house. Funny noise in the car. They're going to stop at the first gas station, service place. They're going to call the guy they've always gone to in the neighborhood. They're going to call their brother-in-law who knows how to fix cars, They may even go to the auto parts store and wind up buying something to do. That's not how we got a guy for that. And the more affluent and valuable the customer or client is, they have a guy, and I mean that non-gender specific. So they have a guy, a gal, and something for that. It's the only time I'm going to say it in 3 days, but I said it. My publisher insists we now explain it in the front of every book, because the editors all want to change every other story to he, she, it. They want to balance out the gender references throughout the book. I'm just going to say he, and they'll figure it out. Well, we got to at least put a thing in the front now that explains this horrible thing that you're doing. It's fine, okay. We'll put a thing in that explains. So anyway, so when I say go-to guy, I mean go-to guy, go-to gal, go-to unicorn, go-to three-headed something, whatever. But that, your higher value customers, that's what they do. Now, they often do it through peer community, which makes referral marketing critical, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. Because typically, the more affluent they are, which typically means the more valuable they'll be, the less receptive to overt marketing of any kind they are, and the more likely they are to call a peer, who do you know, can you get me in to see, etc. Right? But the main point is, one way or another, they find the person, not the product. Their orientation is the human I want to interact with about this. So like, I'm not a medical guy. I don't like them. I'd rather not be in the medical system. I view it like the criminal justice system. Once you get in, you never get out. You move from one, pretty soon you got 48 pills. And so I'm not good about it. But a few years ago, I decided, okay, certain age, I should get some shit checked. And I know I got a couple things I should probably fix. And, So now I got to get a doc. And I don't want a doc. So if I am going to get a doc, I'm going to get the best doc I can. And I'm going to form a relationship so when something really does go wrong, I leap to the top of the food chain, right? So in our market area, my own research and opinion tells me Roizen at the Cleveland Clinic, who's Dr. Oz's partner, if you want a reference. Roizen's less media visible, but they're in business together. And Roizen shows up on his show every once in a while. So I got to get to Roizen. Well, so now, do I know anybody who knows Roizen? No. I make a few calls. No. So how do you get to Roizen? Because you can't just call up and make an appointment, with Roizen. Cleveland Clinic is a charitable foundation. They sell annuities. Aha. I'll bet you got a different phone number than anybody else has when you buy a certain amount of annuities. What do you want to bet? They don't like talking about it, but it only took me 15 minutes to break them. Well, yeah, you get this card, and only our donors have the card, and it bypasses all the usual bullshit, and it gets you in the wing Oprah uses when she comes for the 512th Botox thing. And pretty much you can get to any doc in our system you want to, because we got a concierge person who goes and fetches them for you. Great. Give me the card, right? I said, and I want you to understand, I'm buying the card. I know you don't like selling the card, and you want to tell me about the wonderful work that's being done for eye surgery, for blind people that don't have any money, and research. I don't care about that. I want the card. What will get me the card? Well, we don't, you should take a tour of our, card, check. Right? She says, nobody's really been this blatant about it before. She said, but the truth is, this is really what's at the bottom line of a lot of our donors who do charitable gift annuities with us. She said, we know it. It's just nobody really talks about it like you just talked about it. I said, well, I'm like in a hurry. So I buy because now I feel like I got the golden ticket if I need it. And at some point, I'm going to need it. Some major part's going to break, not a minor part. So I'm going to need my golden ticket. And every year, they call me, and we have lunch, and I give them a little more to renew my golden ticket. And I feel like I'm 12 steps ahead when the moment comes. So I feel safe. All right? Because I got a phone number nobody else, except a bunch of other rich farts who figured the same thing out, have. So we're always buying by preference of provider or person, not product or service. Your highest value clients are always going to do that. Remember, they have more choices than anybody else. The more affluent they are, the more choices they got. Our job is to maneuver them into a position where they really only have one choice. And that will be totally about how they feel. So now, of all the different ways we can make them feel, let me tell you the one that actually has the most leverage. And it's the least complimentary about the human race. But it is the one that has the most leverage. Guy who said it better than I had been saying it is an espionage trainer for the FBI. And here's what he said. If you want people to like you and want to be around you, to confide in you, we want that. So you should understand, in selling, there's mountains of how to tell stories. You need to be a storyteller, right? We all teach it, me included. Marketing is all about telling stories, right? You want to know the story of the retired racehorse who, and now 5 kids are using it to put out forest fires in Wyoming. You want to know about the people that the food bank has helped and they've become self-sufficient and they don't need the food bank anymore and they are now even donors. We want the stories. So there's a lot of emphasis on telling stories. What is even more valuable is when you get them to tell you their story. Even more valuable. Because when they confide in you, other options become unimportant, and fee price is very elastic. I can tell stories all day long, but what they tell me is infinitely more important. So he said, if you want people to be around you, to confide in you, and to feel withdrawal symptoms if you stay absent from them after establishing some relationship, make a practice of making them feel good about themselves, better about themselves, and superior to others with every time spent with you. So of all the ways to make people feel, this is the one that has the greatest leverage, right? Is if you make them feel like superior beings, you get this right, a lot of other stuff works almost on its own. Now, most people won't openly admit that this is how they look at people around them. But it is. They are all, I said at lunch, they're all at a certain age, they're all bitterly disappointed with their adult children, and they now like the grandkids. Because they thought the adult children were going to be superior beings like them. Christ, they can't even, kid's 23 years old, and he's living at home, and he can't even make his bed. How did it come to this, right? Here's what they'll tell you, if you get them in a conversation, about their millennial in the basement, right? Which other than you, right, that's where 80% of them are, right? Here's what they will tell you. They will tell you how unhappy they are about the millennial in their basement, and then they will tell you they're mostly exaggerated and embellished. I used to get up every morning at 4 a.m., milk the cows, and walk to school through the blizzard with no shoes up the hill and work a part-time job in the evening. And I got myself out of bed on my own every morning. I didn't need anybody to come get. This is what they will tell you. What are they really saying? I'm a superior person, right? Right? They look at everybody else around them and they say to themselves, what a bunch of dolts, lazy sloths, I mean, every skinny person, if you're overweight, every one of them is looking at you, and I'm telling you what they're thinking. Man, that person can't push themselves away from the table. They got no discipline. I'm disciplined. I'm a superior. By the way, did you see the little guy's, Kim Young Papaya, whatever his name is, did you see his reaction to Trump's fat joke? Did you guys see this video clip? Anybody? Oh, it's hilarious. And I'm confident deliberate. But you can see the video. You can probably go to YouTube and find it. It's the only time in the entire 3 days the little guy wasn't smiling and happy and nice. The look on his face is instantly, if I could drop the bomb on your ass right now, you'd be gone. So they're in there and the photographers come in. And Trump says, in a jovial way to the photographers, be sure you make us look really good and really thin. The look on Kim Papupu's face is, I could kill you right now with my bare hands, you asshole. Call me fat, I'll show you. I'm going to stick one of them bombs right up your butt and set it. This is the look on his face, right? And then he quickly makes it go away. So it's like maybe 4 beats, right? But here's the other thing it did, which is why I think it was intentional. His reaction came immediately, not after the translation. His reaction was right now. Trump said it, and his face reacted to it. Don't tell me that little guy don't understand English. And don't tell Trump either, because he just found out, right? But look, every thin person thinks fat people don't have any discipline, right? It's the little challenge. I talk about it all the time with my friends from the food bank. It's one of the challenges of getting people like you and me to support that kind of a charity. Because what do we all think? We think it's a bunch of slothful, lazy, feckless people who should solve their problem by getting a damn job. By the way, aptitude test, I was supposed to be a social worker. I was, honest to God. I was supposed to be, first was number one when you took the high school test, concert pianist, and second was social worker. I'd be really efficient. I could handle a caseload like no tomorrow. Get a job, next. Get a job, next. Right? So everybody wants to think of themselves, and truthfully does, as superior in at least some way to everybody else around them. You see people act it out all the time, right? They spend 15 grand on Christmas lights to outdo the neighbor diagonally across the street. For what? It's all about how they feel, right? So when we, through what we do, advertising, marketing, face-to-face selling conversation, when we acknowledge that our prospect and client is a superior being to most, if not all, of the people around him, we do what the FBI agent said. We create a desire to be around us and do business with us even more, which is price elastic. It's not commoditizable, right? And it leads to retention, longevity, and referrals. If you pay attention closely, I do this incessantly. Even when I am making fun of you, I start with cream of the crop, smartest pencils in the box. Can't believe you're putting your half of the ticket in the thing, but imagine what the dumb ones would be doing. I defy you to find an issue of a newsletter where I have not done some version of a shtick saying to you, you are better than everybody else. I kind of doubt you can find what language did he use? Every time spent with you. I kind of doubt you can find an every time spent with me and any time spent with me where I haven't put this piece into what was going on. Now, I do it at this point more unconsciously than consciously because I've just trained myself to do it and have done it so long that it's organic behavior at this point. When I write copy, though, I consciously think about it, for example. Where in this sales letter are we going to make them feel superior to everybody else? That's the highest leverageable feeling. And look, if he's affluent, if your person really has affluence, right? He feels, I'm on your page 61, he feels like he is a superior person. He does. He's made a lot of money, and everybody else hasn't. That colors your opinion, especially if you believe anybody could. So it's just like, wait. So if you are reasonably what you should be, yeah, there's people with actual physical issues. There are big boned people who you got to hang a lot of meat on them. I get it. But for the most part, if somebody is seriously overweight, why are they seriously overweight? Just because they won't not be seriously overweight. It ain't that complicated. Somebody asked me this morning, I was well, if it's white, I generally don't eat it. I mean, I cut down on the junk. I mean, it's not like I'm on the paleo, celery and birdseed. I'll still eat a donut. I just don't do it every day. It's not that hard. All right, same thing with money. Making a lot of money, most of you know now, by now. It ain't the rocket science everybody thinks it is, who doesn't make money. So people who made a lot of money look around and think, well, yeah, I'm actually a better person because I've been more disciplined. I've worked harder. I've made sacrifices. So I put the example there, very ill-advised but very revealing comment by Trump in an interview. Very ill-advised because he made a moral equivalence of the sacrifice made by people serving in the military with his sacrifice of building a giant enterprise that provided a lot of jobs. Not a smart thing to say publicly, but it revealed exactly what he really thinks, which he does, of course, all the time. You want transparent, there's transparent. He actually thinks that. He ain't alone. Because if you've built a company from scratch, did you sacrifice? Of course you did. When everybody else played, you worked. You know that. You risked. Maybe you made some mistakes and had to start over. Where's our guy in a weird jacket? Looks like he works for the hotel. Where are you? Outside on the phone. Perfect. Okay. So tell him I drew his ticket because I was talking about him. But no, we were out at the food bank truck and we were talking about when his mom was hitting the food bank and did it for the right reason and yada, yada, yada. And I mean, look, I've been broke 3 or 4 times and crawled back out of the abyss. And a lot of reasons why people aren't rich is because they're not willing to crawl out of the abyss. So we feel like we sacrificed. I mean, Trump said what probably 300 on the Fortune 500 list think. They just have a little better editing system about what they say, but it doesn't mean they don't think it. The affluent person thinks he's smarter, better informed, more capable. He typically feels he deserves more appreciation and respect than he gets, even if he gets a lot. So these self-concepts are what we either reinforce or don't reinforce for the high-value customer we're trying to do business with. This gets to the 3 conversations and why they're important. So those 3 conversations you really have to be able to do as if you were overhearing your customers, clients, patients, donors, prospects, having them. Because in these conversations is a lot of leverage with those people if you know the conversations. So the first one is just the kitchen table conversation. When they're by themselves at the kitchen table, after they're done with, how was your day? What the hell are they talking about? What does it sound like? Could you write it as a play and have it be authentic? T.J. Rollletter is one of the best copywriters ever for low-end money-making opportunities to low-end buyers because he bought every opportunity there was as a low-end buyer for 15 years. He's one of them, lock, stock, and barrel. and he can recite their conversation at the kitchen table perfectly. And it's made him a great copywriter to that audience. Then there's even deeper is the dead of night kitchen table conversation. That's when one of them wakes up, can't sleep, being bugged by something, gets out of bed as quietly as possible, goes downstairs, doesn't turn on any lights but the light in the refrigerator when they go in there to get something, and sits there stewing. The other one realizes they've left, treks downstairs, joins them at the table, and they now have that conversation. What's that conversation? What does that sound like? So if you want to sell to affluent lawyers, you got to know what that conversation is. And you can't just know what the lawyer's saying, you got to know what the spouse is saying. If you want to sell to affluent dentists, you got to know that conversation. And the third conversation is the in the car, driving home conversation after a provocative event. Cocktail party, evening at the country club, evening at the adult kid's house. What is that conversation sound like from both sides? That's where you get the truth about them. Truth is important because they all lie if you ask them things directly. And a really good homework assignment, besides those scripts, is what do your customers, clients, and prospects routinely lie about to themselves, others, and you? Because they all lie like dogs. So, like, for financial advisors, lies people with money tell themselves. U.S. Trust Study 2017, 61% say they would rather reduce the risk of losses in exchange for lower returns rather than achieve greater returns by higher risk. But do they behave in accordance with this assertion? Hell no. Every money under management person will tell you all their clients are calling them up to take some of the money out because they just got a stock tip, they want to buy Bitcoin, somebody's, they got to buy some stocks in South Korea now because we're going to normalize relations and there's going to be Trump condos and cruise ships. And if they're not calling to ask for the money to do that with, they didn't give you all the money to manage in the first place, and they're running off doing all this stupid crap on the side. All the while telling you, oh, no. Returns aren't important to me. I just don't want to lose money. And then when you're not looking, I'm going to buy Crapcoin, and I'm going to hope for 400% gains in a month. And the minute I get it, I'm going to come take all the money out of management and buy some more Crapcoin. Right? And so the money under management guys, if there's any of you here, this is what you're spending half your time doing, is stopping the bonehead from blowing all his money. But he'll tell you, small business people, every small business person will voice ambition. Most of them have none. What really interests them? This is from the same study. So 48% give more than 5,000 of these affluent people, $5,000 a year to charity. 48% spent 3 times their charitable contributions on travel. So what really interests them? Legacy, taking care of their charities after they die, if you're a financial guy or an estate planner, or how can I rearrange my retirement income so I can have a first-class cabin? What really interests them? First-class cabin. I did all this work for Miracle Air. We were talking about it at lunch. And Miracle Air is running the same stupid TV commercials with the same pitch that they were using to sell hearing aids in 1950. If you see their TV commercial next time, just pay attention, even though it's not for you, probably, because they're doing the same stupid shit I tried to stop them from doing. The commercial's all about, you'll be able to hear the birds better you'll hear more music. You'll hear conversation at the table. That ain't why anybody buys a hearing aid. All the empirical evidence contradicts it. And they go right back to it. Because if they ask people, and whom was that? Fess up, who just made noise out your butt? Clint, oh good, perfect. You know exactly what you need to do. Here's why people buy hearing aids. Not by surveys, but what they say after they bought, when they finally fess up. Here's why people buy hearing aids. Abject fear and terror. That's why they buy hearing aids. They buy hearing aids because they think their adult children are going to stick them in a nursing home because they're addled. Because when they can't hear, they seem like they're addled. Second, they're worried that the adult children, who they no longer like, will not let them take the grandkids to the zoo that they do like by themselves without the adult children tagging along because they can't hear or they're addled. Third, they're still in the workplace and they're afraid they're going to lose their job because they can't hear. Right? Those are the reasons they buy hearing aids. Not because they can't hear the TV. They just turn the volume up and their spouse suffers with it. They don't buy hearing aids to hear the birds better in the backyard. What a bunch of crap. Right? That ain't motivating anybody to buy a product they don't want, admit something they don't want to admit, and pay a price they don't want to pay. Abject terror. But if you run them through a survey or a focus group, they talk about the birds. That's what they do. First of all the advertising has taught them they're supposed to be buying the damn things because they want to hear music better and not annoy their spouse with turning the TV up all the time. That's why they think they're supposed to buy them. So if you focus group them, they tell you what they think they're supposed to say. Birds, really. Yeah. This 80-year-old guy who won't go to any doctor is coming to the hearing aid place and taking tests because he wants to hear the birds better. Trust me, he's heard all the birds he wants to hear. If he lives in a relatively rural area, he says, I can still hear them because when you shoot them, they make a squealing noise. I mean, you know, that ain't why he's buying hearing aids. So all people lie. You got to know what lies your people tell themselves so you can leverage that. Hey, we're going to do 10 minutes of Q&A, which will allow 2 people probably, is all it will allow. And then we're going to take a break from 3 to 3:15. And from 3:15 to 4:15, both of our charity people are going to share with you some stuff about their charities, but also how they get money from people, how they market, promote, and deal with their donors. Okay, so we got to be, you and I both have to be quick and efficient. Okay? So what do you want to ask?
Hi, thanks, Dan. Kenny here. So talking about how our HVCs want to feel superior, for probably most of us, part of our pitch is you may be a superior human in many ways. However, in this area, you've got deficiencies, right?
Yeah, sure.
There are challenges. So what's your recommendation of the best way to do that, to walk that fine line?
So like Ted's deal with the guys who just sold their company, and they now have $25 million for the first time they've ever had cash, right? They run off and do a bunch of stupid shit with it, okay? Because they have been really smart about building a company that they could sell for a small fortune. Therefore, they think they're equally smart about everything else, right? So they have to be disabused of that idea while recognizing that they are miles and miles and miles ahead of everybody they graduated from high school and college, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because they built this shining city on the hill. But now, in an area you have very little experience in because you've been so busy building the shining city on the hill, so it ain't your fault. The vultures from Wall Street are descending, and they're really skilled at taking your money. That's what they're skilled at. You have a situation where, like we do with the ortho campaigns, you want to appeal to the parent being a much better parent than all the other parents on the planet, because they are really concerned about the kid having, et cetera, and they are, so they get 26 gold stars, right? But they ought not think they can solve this by ordinary means.
My concern is some of the particularly affluent people who work very hard actually really neglect their family or neglect their children.
Yeah, but
right?
they don't, but
So it's appealing, I guess, to them providing for, giving a good example. How,
Yeah.
You know, okay.
yeah. Okay.
So,
Are you going to read this question?
no. I wanted
Are
to
you
bring you
watching
back.
a movie? What the hell are you doing?
I have my mind map. I have a follow-on question on what you
Okay.
said in session 1.
All right.
In session 1, I think you said that if you have been living off of low-hanging fruits, and if you have been basically, if for the last X number of years, if you have been a product of bad behavior, it's going to be hard to.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what can I do if I have a client who is in that spot? Where,
So in 8 out of 10 cases, not much. Okay? Because whether it's you with that issue tied to systems and complex marketing, or it's me, or look, we don't really change people's behavior much by the time we get them. We find the 3 gold needles in the haystack who are already thinking in the direction we're going to take them. They are already saying to themselves, gee, what we've been doing here, this don't look good. The long-term plan here is Amazon eats us. The long-term plan is Walmart eats us. The long-term, they're already thinking it, and we pick them up when they're already in motion. We don't really change the resistant person. Right? So 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 times, there's nothing you can do. I tell you the truth. But the 2 or 3 are immensely valuable to you. What it does say, though, backing up in the process, is you've got to make the right bird calls that cause the 3 who are already thinking this to flock to you. They will chase you down in the hall, figuratively or literally. And they will sit in the consulting room and say, I get it. Help me fix it. Help me get off the low-hanging fruit. I get it. Right? See, so I don't really, very few of us actually convert people from really bad or dumb behavior to really good or smart behavior. We pick up and facilitate the one that's already kind of at the fork in the road and sees the fork, right? So, and kind of looping back. So like my message to NSA when I went after the speakers, 100 of them all hated me except for 3 who were already thinking this. My message was, A, the model they're showing you is horseshit. It doesn't work. Right? It works for them, doesn't really work for you. Right? B, you're smart enough to identify it, to know it, and to want to change. Now, small number, so they got to be high value, right? Because if you're doing this for nickels and dimes and you're driving off, 80, 90% of the people you're talking to, and they're running off aggravated and screaming, the math doesn't work. But if they're high value, the math works fine. Right? Helpful? All right. 3 o'clock. We got a break till 3:14.